What is up, dogs? Ultimate Weenie here with a review of Lost Records Bloomin' Rage, the most recent game made by one of my favorite studios, DONTNOD. Now, I know I'm relatively new to the review scene, so to effectively relate to you and build rapport, I think it's important I share my taste and preferences with previous DONTNOD titles. So if you'd like to skip ahead to just the review portion, I'll include the timestamp right here. To get a little history on my relationship with Don't Nod, I got to take it back to 2016, maybe 17, almost a decade back. It was my birthday, and I can't remember a lot of the details, but I imagine I was a little depressed at the time because I usually get a case of the buns when I get reminded of existing. But I was excited to meet up with my brother, who came bearing a gift. That gift, I opened it up, and on the inside was a game called Life is Strange. It was a collector's edition, and it changed me in a couple ways. For one, I turned into a sapphic lesbian for a few months. I lived life vicariously through Max, and it was genuinely a blast. Two, the soundtrack lived rent free in my noggin for that same amount of time. It was my first experience with a primarily choice based game and a damn fine intro into the genre. It was littered with cute references to a lot of shit I was into, filled with music I already loved, and characters that I could pick apart and find similarities to my friend group. It rocked, and I genuinely fell in love with the series. And that love continued into Before the Storm, where Chloe Price has 100% became one of my favorite video game characters of all time. With Life is Strange 2, I was super hyped for the game, and my friend Jacob turned out to be super hyped too, so we made a pact to not play it without each other so we could discuss it. Well, life can be pretty fucking strange sometimes, and before we started it, he passed, and it sucked. I couldn't bring myself to play it after that, so it sat on a shelf, and I hated the thought of playing it without him, so I moved on. I don't want to dwell on some random sad mojo lore that I just randomly dropped in a review, and I was eventually able to watch my wife play through it, and so I'll go into my experience with that another time, but overall I love the game. My next Don't Nod game was Vampire. I got it on the day of release with the help of some goblin antics that I can't legally elaborate on, but it mixed action with that sense of choice, and overall I enjoyed it. The other Life is Strange games I watched my wife play through in glimpses, but they weren't developed by Don't Nod themselves. Overall, they seemed like they didn't meet the expectations set by prior games, so I was stoked to play this fully Don't Nod developed title. That being said, I'm going to try and not be biased, but I'm also not going to be overly critical because I hate seeing black and white reviews because not every game is going to be the best of all time or an absolute clusterfuck of a flop. There's a gray area with a ton of amazing games, and Bloomin' Rage finds itself a home in the upper end of this gray area. Bloomin' Rage Tape 1 dropped February 18th, 2025, and I was able to pick it up for free with Dog Bless PlayStation Plus game catalog, so with no monetary skin in the game, I was excited to check it out. This is a review of Tape 1 only, as Tape 2 isn't coming out until April 15th. But hit that subscribe button and you'll see a more expanded review after I play it. Bloom and Rage puts you in the shoes of Swan in a dual timeline set between 2022 and 1995. While Swan is the player character, I can't exactly say she's the main character, as the light gets equally dispersed between all four of the characters you primarily interact with. You have Swan, an extremely awkward teen girl who has troubles fitting in, overly self conscious, and whose best friend is a camera. All except being a teen girl, I could relate my teenage existence with her, except for the fact that I was all of that and poor as fuck. Next, we have Nora, an extroverted, chain smoking goth girl with dreams of moving to LA and becoming a movie star. She's flirty and confident on the outside, but it disguises an inner flaw of fear on the inside. Then we have her best friend, Autumn. Autumn is the best friend of Nora. And Autumn is the army brat of the group, but she's also the voice of the reason. And her ultimate goal is to help others. And lastly, my favorite character so far, Kat. She has an energy not so different than Chloe. She's punk, she's brash, she doesn't give a raw dog of a fuck. She's unapologetically herself, and I love that. I found myself relating to these characters to myself and my group of friends, and I was immediately invested in them and their stories. This is where Bloom and Rage Part 1 excels as a character driven piece. Where Life is Strange most often starts with a traumatic event that sets the story in motion quickly, Bloom and Rage takes a low and slow approach, so you may be disappointed if you want a game that dives headfirst into the plot. The game starts in 2022. It's the tail end of COVID where Autumn receives a package and it's addressed to Bloom and Rage, the band that you all made in 1995. Problem is, you and your friends haven't seen each other since 1995, and the memories of that summer seem to be repressed, and the game is spent trying to remember exactly what happened. The narrative is slow and it takes us time with the characters, making you feel like you're a part of the group. These are core canon events to their lives, and the duality of how your past choices affect the present, and also your choices made in the present reflected in the past. It's the duality of this mechanic that provides a decent amount of replayability. As the story goes on, you get the mystery elements sprinkled in, leaving you asking questions, and a slight amount of spooky vibes in there for good measure.
Show him what you got. Countdown?
Yes.
3, 2.
1.
Without spoiling too much about the game, it reminds me of a slightly older movie called The Craft, and I'm excited to see where the story goes in Tape 2. Playing as Swan, you interact with the world through various objects you can pick up, read, examine, and use, with certain items other characters will reminisce over in the present. I have seen some people complaining about the useless items in this aspect, but overall, every piece adds detail and world building, which I myself thoroughly enjoy. It's fun to find D&D character sheets, nostalgia bait, and mixtapes of music from 1995, which I gotta say, the mixtapes are pretty fire. You also get a video camera that you capture footage in for little documentaries that complete as you capture required footage of nature, scenery, friends, and other aspects of your life that you're able to splice and cut, giving a massive amount of freedom to creative types. Using the camera is super fun, and capturing perfect moments on film is extremely satisfying. I'll address one of my complaints here, though, and it's pretty much my main critique. The story pacing for me is fine. The characters, including the antagonist, are fantastic and nuanced. But on the technical side, it has some bugs. While fine for me, as I enjoy the laughter they bring, it can strip away some of the immersion of the moment. Characters can move weirdly, and lip syncing can be slightly off, but nothing I encountered was game breaking. The environment and character design, to put it simply, is genuinely fantastic. From hanging around small town parks to hangout spots in the woods, various landmarks and critters, it's presented in a beautiful package that Bloom and Rage works to its fullest. And it had me drawing comparisons to my hometown, and many games can't do that for me. I come from rural Appalachia, and on the other side of the states where this game takes place, tales of cryptids and small town shenanigans are rampant, and the game captured the essence of that perfectly. I was able to do hood rat stuff with my friends, and it felt good. But my next complaint of the game, while I said I don't mind the low and slow method they used for pacing, where they ended it did not give me enough answers. Now, you could say, Weenie, what the freaking heck do you think a cliffhanger is for? And I narrow my eyes and say, to keep 'em coming back for more, before violently guffawing as we sip dry martinis while we wait for tape 2, but I wish we got a little bit more mysticism and mystery before it abruptly ended. Though the cliffhanger alone was enough to get the job done, I would have liked to see characters picking up on the strange things going on in the past to get them asking the same questions that I had. So it may be beneficial if you wait until tape 2 drops if you don't want to lose the momentum after an already slow simmered start. Besides the choice based narrative and capturing video footage, one of the highlights of the game is its dialogue.
Well, she turned their phone off. Just gonna cost me a week's allowance.
You made a deal with the devil.
And I'd do it again. I want to tell you guys something. It's big. Guess what?
Chicken butt.
You're such a dork, Swan.
Patience pays off and conversations are fluid, as waiting before you speak can often give you additional options of dialogue. This helps with immersion as you truly feel a part of a larger conversation. Additionally, some dialogue choices can offer additional context and dialogue choices later, leading back to a decent replayability factor. Overall, while not perfect, Bloom and Rage is a fantastic game that I would not mind if I had to purchase, but feel extremely lucky I got to play it on PlayStation Game Catalog, dog bless. It wears its heart on its sleeve, and it has that classic Don't Nod soul that originated in Life is Strange. While on the technical side it shows some flaws and can be slow on pacing and stingy with the mystery, it has a core essence that feels nostalgic and cozy. It offers strong, slow simmered storytelling, and the character work within this group of girls is highly impressive. It lays a fantastic framework for the second tape, but it's a damn shame I have to stew with my thoughts and wait for the next chapter. But you won't have that issue if you pick up the game on April 15th. And after I play the second part, I'll do a more in depth breakdown of the characters and plot, and it will be filled with spoilers, so be sure to subscribe if you like this review and want to see more coverage. And if you have played Bloom and Rage, let me know your thoughts on it or other Don't Nod games you'd like to see me cover in the comments. Also, here's a free game for Steam. It's a code that it's first come first serve, so if you get it, claim it in the comments. It's just a little treat for being the person to watch my videos. If you like that, subscribe. You may get a game. But again, this is Ultimate Weenie, and thank you so much for watching and taking the time out to check out my channel. I'll see you on the flip side, dog. Peace.
Oh my gosh. Now I feel like a peeping Tom.